What up, everybody? This is the Dr. Football Ultimate Patriots Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Dennis Tian, recording remote tonight from my medical office in Dedham, Massachusetts. What does a real doctor think about football and the Patriots? You are about to find out. And joining me, as always, is the CEO of Hedge Better, Justin Fine. Justin, what is going on, my man? How are you doing?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Cold, rainy kickoff to December, but feeling really good because we just had a great Monday night here in New England.
Well, I don't know if you can believe this, but they say a polar vortex is coming. So they say it's going to be like a really cold next 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, we were also supposed to get snow today, and I got a little bit of rain for a bit. That was about it. So I don't know. You never really know, I guess.
You never really know. I don't know if I buy the hype around the polar vortex.
Yeah.
We got a great episode planned tonight. We got a ton of good stuff to get to. We're going to get into everything with the big win in Foxborough last night. We're going to work it around the league and get to, I think, some of the things that are really heating up across the NFL right now. We're going to take it to Philadelphia. We're going to take it to Pittsburgh. We're going to take it to Carolina. We're going to take it to Minnesota, to the AFC North, and to San Francisco. We got some great stuff planned for around the league, but as always, Justin, we're going to start in Foxborough. You ready, my man?
Let's do it. Let's get into it.
Let's get into it, because what I want to start with is this, and I'm going to be dating myself a little bit when I say this, but what I want people to understand is that the Patriots are 11-2 right now, and that an 11-win season is a great season in the NFL. In fact, you might not know this, and probably people of your age and generation might not realize this, but for the first 43 years of the existence of this franchise, they never won more than 11 games, ever. They won 11 games in 86. They lost in the Super Bowl to the Bears. Mm-hmm. They won 11 games in 96. They lost in the Super Bowl to the Packers. This team went 43 years until 2003 without ever winning more than 11 games. It looks like they will do it this year. I think they're a safe bet to win at least 13. So let's just call it out, Justin. This team is a great team. An 11-win season, no matter what happens from this point, has been a great season. They're tough. They're fast. They are physical. They are well coached. They have a dynamic and elite young playmaking quarterback who every week makes 4 to 6 throws that I'm not sure maybe one or two other guys in the NFL could even make. It has been a terrific season, a pleasure to watch this team so far, and just an amazing 11-win season already, Justin.
Yeah, you know what? In this team isn't just a surprise, right? This isn't a good fortune, better than expected. Like, this is a very good team, right? And one thing that I think we have to get away from, this narrative that they've had an easy schedule, and that's one of the reasons why they've been successful and have the wins that they have, right? And I look at that from two different angles. The first of which is the fact that the two games that they were supposed to lose, right, clearly going up against what should have been a better team, at least according to Vegas. They go into Buffalo, they go into Tampa, they win both of those games, right? The quote unquote hard games in their schedule. But you take a look at the rest of those easy games. After that win against Buffalo, they might not have had a ton of other challenging opponents outside of Tampa Bay, but let's look around the league. We see good teams lose to average and below average teams all the time. Almost on a weekly basis, we see something like that happen, right? If this Patriots team was not playing at an elite level, not an above average team, not the real deal, they would have been caught slipping at one point. It doesn't matter that, maybe they've had an easier schedule. One of these bad or average teams would have caught them at some point, and they haven't. They continue to win the games that they're supposed to win, in addition to the games that they weren't supposed to win. So I think this is a really good football team, and we have to stop saying that they have the record they have because of the schedule that they have.
I absolutely agree. And when they have had hiccups, they're still winning their game. Yeah. Okay, let's look at Cincinnati last week as the perfect example of a game where they came out, they didn't play their best, and they still found a way to win. I think what happened last night gives a little bit of context to that Cincinnati game from last week? Because when was that a bump in the road, or was that reflection of a larger problem with this team? You go out and you win a game like they did last night, and it feels more like that Cincinnati game was just kind of a little speed bump. And the fact that they hit a speed bump and they still came up with a W is a positive. It's not a negative.
Look, I totally agree. I mean, look, again, I said it before and I'll say it again. This team is not only winning games that they shouldn't win, but they're winning all the games that they should win. And that's not easy to do. And you know what? Look, like, it's easy to take that for granted. But, like I just said a few minutes ago, look at all the games that some of these quote unquote really good Super Bowl ready teams have lost around the league. Like, we're seeing teams lose games that they shouldn't on a regular basis. It's the NFL. Right? Like, this is not high school football. This is not, the opening weeks of college. This is the NFL. And any team is capable of going out there and being any team, hence the term any given Sunday, right? It's a phrase for a reason. It's because it's very possible. And this team goes out there and they find ways to beat every team that they've played since September. And I mean, there's something to be said for that. So, you know what? I think it's time that we acknowledge this team is the real deal. They're very legit. They're winning despite injuries, despite slow starts at times, despite hiccups, even in cases where they're not even the better team. So I think we have to call it like it is and just say that this team is proving that they deserve to be taken as legit contenders this year.
They deserve to be taken as legit contenders. And right now, in December, the culmination of the NFL season, your New England Patriots are the best team in the NFL based on performance. Mm-hmm. Only team in the league with 11 wins, number one seed, winners of 10 in a row. What else? What further proof would you need? They right now are the best team in the National Football League.
They 100% are. And I mean, look, and I'll take medicine for this later in the show, but I thought they were going to struggle a little bit last night, right? They were going up against a good Giants defensive line, they have injuries on both sides of the ball, and they came out and they looked, they really did look dominant for the most part. I mean, this is just a team that we've talked about some of the lack of star power. We've talked about some of the struggles, some of the areas they need to improve in, but it doesn't change the fact that this team just finds ways to win games, and it starts with the coach and it trickles down to the quarterback, and then it spreads throughout the rest of that locker room where everybody kind of knows their role and plays their role, and it's kind of playing a vital cause in this team's
You know
success.
what, Justin, though? I'm not sure if you need to take medicine, because I think that even though they were dominant overall, I do think they struggled in some ways last night. I do think they left points on the table. I mean, the score was 33-15.
Yeah.
The way at times they dominated this Giants team, I felt like they should have scored more points. They got stopped inside the 5 twice and had to settle for field goals again. The red zone offense, an issue again. They had a touchdown wiped off the board in the second half because of a stupid penalty.
Yep.
They were consistently run on the whole night by the Giants. Like, there were things that you can look at and say, they won a game in the NFL by 18 points, and they still at times didn't play their best in certain spots.
They totally didn't play their best at certain spots. Like you said, there were times they left points on the board, missed field goal, a couple other opportunities that they didn't exactly take advantage of. But you know what? Like you said, it wasn't their best performance, but it was good enough to beat another franchise by 18 points. And I think that's something that we have to actually, take solace in. And that's more of a positive than a negative in my opinion.
It's absolutely a positive, because some of those struggles, I think, do tie back to injuries. And look, if this team could just figure out how to score in the damn red zone, I mean, they would be actually even more dominant than they are. Like, just simple fix, and maybe there are some underlying reasons why they struggle in the end zone. It's not just so simple as like, hey, we're going to do better in the red zone. Like, they can't run the ball. They don't have like a true number one target. Maybe there are reasons why they struggle, but if they somehow could ever just stumble on some kind of solution for that red zone problem, they're going to be even tougher to beat.
Yeah, I agree. And I still think, we've talked about this before. I still think I'd like to see the play calling get a little bit better in the red zone. I mean, I don't think it's awful, but I don't think it's optimal by any means. But it's funny because I look at some of these throws that Drake makes, right? I think of like the booty throw the other night, last night. I think about the Diggs throw on 4th down against Tampa Bay. It's like, you got a guy that's so accurate and so versatile. I really would like to see them open up the playbook a little bit more in the red zone, because you have one of the few quarterbacks in the league who can really make tight throws and tight windows and just put the ball exactly where it needs to be.
Yeah, I agree with that. You're hitting on the coaching, which is what I want to talk about next. So I do have some thoughts about the play calling I want to get to. But before I get into that, I just want to see what you think about this, because something I thought really remarkable happened in that game last night. And I'm not sure if it's something I've ever seen before. And I think that it was a real testament, a tip of the iceberg, if you will, to something deeper with this Patriots team. And I'm going to point to that hit that Christian Ellis had on Jackson Dart, which, by the way, was 10,000% a clean hit in a great defensive play. And shame on you, Jackson Dart, for being a fool after being out in concussion protocol for 2 weeks and letting that happen again. But after Christian Ellis absolutely plasters Jackson Dart on the sideline, he gets pushed by 2 New York Giants. I'm not sure I've ever seen an NFL player that got pushed like that. Okay, a cheap shot push from 2 Giants players, have the discipline and the patience and the mental discipline, okay, to not push back.
Put his hands up and let himself get pushed.
Let himself get pushed, took the 15-yard penalty and erased a pivotal 1st down for the Giants. That was discipline. That is coaching. That is buy-in. That is culture. Justin, it shows up everywhere for this team, in every place, in every spot. Buy-in and culture, buy-in and culture, buy-in and culture. Mike Vrabel bet big on rebuilding the culture of this team this year, and it pays results every single week. And that's a big example of one.
Yeah. I mean, put that in the same category as Travion Henderson looking back on his way into the end zone, right? That play is actually, I think, a perfect microcosm for this Vrabel philosophy in just this team. And it's tough yet disciplined, right? That was a hell of a hit. First, and by the way, good on the refs for not calling that, right? Because just the optics of it, it could have been very easy to initially flag that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So good on the refs for not flagging that. But like you said, that was a type of play that was tough, that was physical, that got the crowd on its feet. I wasn't even at the game. I'm watching on TV, but I could hear the entire crowd collectively, lose it when that happened. Obviously, that fires up the team. And then, like you said, by the same token, the discipline to know that, he wasn't going to get involved in draw or penalty, because that oftentimes that winds up in a double flag, right? Players react, you see flags come out, penalties on both sides on sportsmanlike. That was just exactly, what you think about when you think of Vrabel and a Vrabel coach team, tough yet disciplined.
It was actually amazing for Ellis to have that kind of discipline when he was in fact the victim of a cheap shot. And I agree with you. A lot of times that penalty gets called against the defender, but it was so obviously a clean hit. I mean, you never know in today's NFL because they protect the quarterback so much. Let's talk a little about Vrabel right now, Justin. We've talked so much about Drake May as MVP. I don't even think we've mentioned that Mike Vrabel might be the coach of the year right now in the NFL. At 11-2, you look at where this franchise was, the mess this franchise was in, the culture he's built, the way he's handled Drake May, everything he's done really since he's got here. Is Mike Vrabel the coach of the year right now in the NFL?
I think he has to be. I mean, I just don't understand how you overlook him. I think there's a couple other guys that have done a really good job, and I think they deserve their shout outs. Guys like Ben Johnson, guys like Dave Canales, right? I think there's a couple that you can point to and say they've done a really good job this year turning a team around. But the extent of that Vrabel has come in and done it with what he's had to work with, I think it goes unparalleled. I don't think there's anybody who can put up the same type of argument that Vrabel can. I would be very shocked if Mike Vrabel is not the coach of the year.
Yeah, I mean, if the season finishes the way that they're saying it's going to, or the way we expect it to, I should say, right? Like this team ends up with 13 wins, 14 wins. I mean, how do you not make Vrabel the coach of the year? And like, look, I mean, yeah, Ben Johnson's done well. I don't think this season ends with Chicago in the number 1 seed. I'm not even sure if they win that division.
Right.
I mean, I heard full credit to Scott Zolak today because he gave a great take that the Bears were the 2021 Patriots. And I'm like, oh my God, that is so spot on. But that's really what they are. The Panthers aren't even a playoff team. If the season ends today, I don't know. I'm sure someone else will make a bid, but yeah, I mean, Vrabel is the coach of the year, I think, right now.
He is. He totally is. And you know what? In to pair that with this young quarterback, if Matt Stafford wasn't having the season he was having, Drake May, I think, would be far and away the NFL MVP. And I'm not even convinced that race is over. But 100%. Vrabel is. And look, I think you gotta put into perspective too, not just the turnaround, but what are you doing with what you have to work with, right? And I would argue on paper, yes, I think this Patriots team is a good team. I think they have some talent, but we talk about all the time them lacking some superstar power, right? Them having maybe some weaknesses at certain depth spots in their roster. Like, to get the results that he's getting out of this team, I think speaks volumes, not just in terms of the turnaround, but the water he's squeezing out of the stone, so to speak.
1,000%. And just go across this roster and look at the players that were here the last couple of years and what they gave the last couple of years and what so many of these guys are giving this year. And you're seeing so much better from so many players up and down this roster. It's coaching. It's coaching. Mike Vrabel has coached these guys up. And, one of the things I'm starting to wonder is we've talked a lot about draft struggles of the New England Patriots. And this went beyond Mayo. This went into Belichick's last couple of years. And you have to wonder if one of the reasons their drafts have been so bad is because their coaching has been so bad. And then maybe it is a little bit of player development issue.
You know what? Look, I think it has been. I mean, look, for all the failures we talk about, they definitely got a couple guys who they drafted that are key contributors on this team, right? That play a vital role. I mean, you could talk about Barmore, you could talk about Marcus Jones, you can talk about Booty, Douglas, guys that go back to the Bill Belichick era, right? So it's like, it's very easy, I think, to pick out the failures in the misses. But I do think this team has had a little bit of success. But to your point, it's tough to properly evaluate the draft classes when they're not properly coached up and you're not seeing the best versions of themselves.
1,000%, Justin. Let's talk a little about something you hit on a few minutes ago, because I actually thought last night they were a little more aggressive with the play calling. And it's something we've been complaining about all year. Yeah. And I don't know if it was the matchup with the Giants or if it was the fact that they've just kind of come to this realization that that May is at that level now and they need to trust him. Yeah. And they need to rely on him. But whatever it was, I did feel like they were a little more aggressive last night. They were throwing a lot in the second half. I thought they threw the ball downfield more. I liked what I saw from this play calling last night, even though, maybe they did leave some points on the field, off the field.
I would agree with that. I actually was very, I think obviously maybe they could have still done a little bit more. I'm not saying it was perfect, but I was definitely pleasantly surprised. I thought, you go into that half, it was what, a 27-7 lead or 31-7, 27-7 lead. And I said to myself, I feel like they're going to come out in this second half and just turtle up, play conservative, try to get out of here, just try to hold the lead. And I think they actually were aggressive at the right time. They at least more than I've seen them do in the past, kept their foot on the gas a little bit, right? I mean, I specifically think about that. I think it was a 4th and 5 or 4th and 7 situation with about 6-7 minutes left, right? Up 2 scores. And they could have kicked a field goal. They were in field goal range, right? But they chose to go with that quick little in route to Diggs. It wound up paying off. Like that was an example of that type of aggression that we haven't seen from this team in past games. And it's funny because I want to say like, that's the lack of aggression in the past is bit him in the butt. I mean, it really hasn't. I mean, the team's on a 10 or 11, 10 game win streak. So, I mean, you can't say it's bitten them in the butt, but I do think it definitely helps them out. When they can get out to a lead early and play and keep their foot on the gas in the second half.
Yeah, 1,000%. And I think that against a better team, you're going to have to keep your foot on the gas. Totally. Like if you're playing Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes, you can't take a 10 or 17 point lead in the second quarter and just put on cruise control. That's going to burn you. So I think maybe last night was a little bit of an acknowledgement from the coaching staff and from McDaniels and Vrabel that we're getting to the time in the year. May is at that level. We have to keep our foot on the accelerator. And I was really surprised in the second half with some of the aggression. Now, they didn't score points. They should have scored points. They had a touchdown pass taken off the table. That was a beautiful play call and a wide open Hunter Henry. And that was a shame. But the aggression is what I liked. And I hope that they continue to do that because I think that's what they're going to need to beat Buffalo and Baltimore and whoever they play in the playoffs.
Exactly. And look, not for nothing, that game against the Giants was pretty much wrapped up heading into that second half. When would there be a better time to, practice and put yourself in those type of situations that you might need to take advantage of against those better teams, especially in the playoffs? And then look, this team's about to go on bye, right? And it's a much needed bye for them. They need to get a little healthy. I think it's a well-deserved break for them. But you're not going to play football for 2 weeks. So you have the second half of that game. Absolutely try to keep the wheels moving, try to keep the gears turned, and try to keep yourself a well-oiled machine because you're about to take 2 weeks off. And I know that it's probably well needed in terms of health and rest. But when you come back, you play the Buffalo Bills, and you cannot start off slow against them. So I like the fact that they played all 4 quarters last night.
Any chance, Justin, that the bye week ends up becoming a negative for this team? They've just been rolling so well. And how many times in sports have we seen, a team is hot, and then when they hit that little gap, sometimes they don't always hit the ground running. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see in 2 weeks how this team comes out and if they continue with the momentum or if they lose a little momentum because they have been rolling lately. And sometimes a bye week can be the worst thing in that situation.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about it. I think this is obviously a team that needs to rest up and get healthy, but I 100% agree with you that, you do lose momentum when you take that amount of time off, right? And we've also criticized this team for being slow starters in weeks past, right? And so, you take some time off, you lose some momentum. I mean, look, there's a good chance you come out flat against Buffalo. Now, here's one thing I will say, and maybe call me crazy. I don't think them losing to Buffalo is the worst thing in the world for two reasons. I think, things have been so good for the last 2 months, the last 10 games, that it might be nice to get a little wake up call, right? Heading into the end of the season in the playoffs. And the second thing is, look, it's really tough to beat a good team, especially a divisional team, 3 times, right, in a season. So there's a chance you end up facing this Buffalo Bills team in the playoffs. If they're going to lose a game to them, I almost rather them get it out of the way coming out of the bye, wake themselves up a little bit, get that loss out of the way, and then be kind of itching with the fire lit under them for the rest of the season.
I mean, I don't hate that take. Obviously, you don't want to ever lose, right? But at the same time, if they were to lose, I don't think it would be devastating for their season at all. I mean, I've sort of said this whole last couple of weeks, they just need to win one out of these 2 games, either Buffalo or Baltimore. And frankly, Justin, even if they lose them both, I don't know if that's necessarily devastating, because the best Buffalo could do if you take care of business against the Jets in Miami is tie, and then you'd be on tiebreakers, and that would require Buffalo to win 5 games in a row. And they do play the Eagles in addition to the Pats, and the Bengals this week, I think, is going to be a sneaky tough game for Buffalo. So, yeah, I think there would be a little silver lining to that. Certainly as long as the Patriots go out and take care of business the next week in Baltimore. And I mean, yeah, with a young team, the other thing I think you have to think of is, if you beat Buffalo twice and then you play them in the postseason, I do think that puts a lot of pressure on the Pats in May in a way. Yeah. So there might be a little silver lining to the cloud if they were to lose, but I will be interested to see, how they come out, and do they keep it going? What's been going the last 10 weeks for this team. Let's talk a little, Justin, about Drake May. And I have a couple takes on the performance last night for May. First of all, it was a terrific performance from Drake May. Once again, we've said it every damn week in the last 2.5 months. He makes 4, 5, 6 throws a game that most quarterbacks in this league literally can't make. Mm-hmm. He just literally physically can't make. I mean, the way he spins the ball. I mean, that throw to Kyle Williams was beautiful. That throw to Kayshon Boutte was beautiful. There was a couple others, 1 or 2 to Hunter Henry. Yeah. What I'm realizing now after watching him last night, and I see his poise start to develop, I see his field presence continue to develop. I see him starting to get a sense of how to avoid being hit. Okay. Drake May has not even hit his ceiling yet. No. That's what I've realized. He's good as he is not at his pinnacle yet.
No, I mean, he even just statistically, like, you're telling me this guy doesn't have a 3 touchdown and 300-yard game in him, right? Like, statistically, he has not hit that yet. So I
should have had one last night. That was a shame.
Yeah, I know, he totally should have. But like, even just the stats are saying that this guy has more in the tank. So I totally agree. I mean, the kid is just so poised back there. All those balls he's throwing, and I mean, you can talk about the one to Williams and the one to Boutte, but even just going back the last 2 months, like, the kid just looks so cool, calm, and collected when he releases that ball. It looks effortless. It's such a pretty ball. And it almost doesn't even seem real how perfect some of these throws are in terms of their placement. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's just
100%. Like, I'm not sure if I have ever seen a quarterback, and I don't want to sound hyperbolic. I don't want to have the recency bias. I don't forget how great Tom Brady was. Right. But I'm not sure if I've ever seen a quarterback anywhere throw the deep ball as well as Drake May throws a deep ball.
I agree 100%. We were texting about that last night. I mean, I think we both agree that, like, this guy is it's just special when he drops back in and lets one fly. And, we talk about the deep ball, but again, like, that throw to Boutte and a couple others that he had in this game, his mid-range and short game accuracy too is off the charts, right? The guy is just, totally. He's accurate, he's precise, and he's calculated when he throws the ball.
1,000%. And, honestly, say all that. And what I still love best about Drake May is his personality, his demeanor, and his resiliency. Because I think that's what really separates him. Like, mentally and emotionally, he processes the game well, and he can handle it. I mean, he can handle it, right? And I think that's where most of these guys that are super talented fall apart. And that's what really separates the truly great ones from the guys that may have just as much talent, but don't ever become much. I think it's the mental stuff, the emotional stuff. And me, it just strikes you as just that presence. And I think that's what I may like best about him.
Yeah. I mean, even just, I know it might sound simple, but even just listening to him, doing his post-game interviews or, in the locker room afterwards, it's like, I feel like I'm listening to a guy who's been in the league for 10 years. That's a seasoned veteran, right?
100%.
Just the definition of poise, the definition of professional. I mean, how many times do we hear some of these young kids, both quarterback and non-quarterback, being interviewed and speaking, and you can tell right away that they're not long for much success or a long career in this league, right? It's just, it's almost indicative of your performance in your abilities. And I mean, the guy he's he's well above his years, both in terms of his ability on the field and off the field.
And 1000% he is. So I think that here's my question for you. Is Drake May the MVP? Because you just said something earlier that, the race isn't over yet, even though Matt Stafford has the advantage. Well, I'm going to tell you who doesn't think Matt Stafford has the advantage, and that's DraftKings and pretty much every other sport book in this country. Because right now, this afternoon, tonight, Drake May is the favorite to win the MVP award again, which is crazy. And what I guess I'm wondering, because clearly Matt Stafford has had a better statistical season than Drake May. So how much are MVP voters going to factor in the team around the player? Because Stafford's got Puka Nacua, and he's got Devonta Adams, and he's got Kyrie Williams, and May doesn't really have any of that. So if you factor in the team around them, and I would just point out, they kind of did that last year with Josh Allen, and even because he was not the statistically best quarterback in the league last year, Lamar Jackson was, but he had way worse weapons, and that's what got him the MVP. I'm wondering if that's what's going to happen this year. If the voters will factor in the fact that this Patriots team is doing what they're doing, Drake May is doing what he's doing, and the team isn't even that good yet.
I mean, 100%. I mean, you look at Stafford's weapons compared to May's weapons. I mean, it's night and day. Stafford went out last week. He threw 2 interceptions, and his team lost to what we would consider an average NFL team. Drake May went out, 0 turnovers, should have had 3 touchdowns and 300 yards, but was very close to that. Like, that was a huge, I think, swing in this race. Drake May has the ability right now to go out, and if he ends this season strong, if they can win 3 out of the next 4, he can minimize the turnovers and just show up on offense and win some big games. I think it's very realistic to say that Drake May can still be the MVP of this league.
It's beyond realistic. I mean, he is the betting favorite. Yeah. The other thing that he has an advantage on, in my opinion, is who votes on the MVP award, right? The media. And what is the media like? They love the sexy new story. Yeah. They love the new face, and I think that will give May an advantage in the voting.
100%. And let's not forget too, one thing that I think can play well, into it is the fact that the Patriots are, they're well on their way from being one of the worst teams in the league to being the number 1 seed. Right?
Yes.
The Rams lost their number 1 seed this past week.
Right.
So,
yes.
The Patriots, Drake May, the Patriots can finish with the best record or tied for the best record in the NFL, lock up that number 1 seed in the AFC. I think that also is additional feathers in his cap when the voting comes. Yeah,
1,000%. It's just amazing. And I know I've said this on this podcast before, but it's like, is this guy really this good? Like, is this really going to happen again? That we just had Brady for 20 years and then we had to endure like 4 whole years without a franchise quarterback. There are franchises that haven't been able to find a quarterback for 4 decades.
Yeah.
New York Jets, the Bears until now, the Cardinal, I could go on, and they're going to pluck this guy out. It's just like, it's totally unbelievable to me.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine what like a fan of the Jets or the Bills or the Dolphins would feel like to just see this happening again.
Oh, the rest of the league is just seething, right? Like there are a lot of teams, a lot of people, a lot of players out there that I think were relishing in our demise the last couple of years. And to just turn it around as quickly as we did, find a guy who looks like he's going to be here for the next 15 years, 20 years.
Right.
It truly is special. And to your point, it is something that I think as Patriots fans, we can't take that for granted. We have to actually acknowledge just how special and how unlikely it is what we're experiencing.
I agree 1,000%. Okay. A couple more quick takes before we move to around the league. I don't know. We don't usually take victory laps on the Pats, but I am going to take a small one because I gave you 2 takes. 2 things I said last week that I thought proved true. One was I told you that the offensive line would not be an issue, and it was not an issue. In fact, that was the best pass protection. Do you know this? This was the lowest pressure rate that Drake May has had in his career to this point. 25% pressure rate was the lowest he's had in his career. That was the best pass protection Drake May had ever got. So the offensive line was not an issue last night.
Yeah, they look good. Did the Giants even get a sack? Maybe one?
They got two.
Two? Okay, two. Yeah.
Yep, I mean, they got two. One of them was late.
One of them, yeah. But I mean, it definitely wasn't a big issue last night. I agree 100%. I do want to see, how they hold up over the next couple of games. But, if they do hold up well, it lets you breathe a lot easier, right? Because I think we were all kind of worried about how things would play out when the starting left side of our line goes out. And now, like you said, he has the best protection that he's had. So I'm very interested to see if that was a fluke or if that's something that continues coming out of the bye.
Yeah, if a better team will be able to exploit that.
Yeah.
Because one of the things we're going to talk about in a second is the Giants. They're like a headless horseman. I mean, there is no direction on or off the field to that operation. Right. So you wonder if a better coach team would be able to exploit that better.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it wasn't an issue. And then the other thing I said was that they would miss Milton Williams, and I thought, a little bit of a cloud around the silver lining, if you will. They missed Milton Williams. I mean, I thought their run defense was not good last night. The Giants were able to run the ball well on this Patriots team.
Yeah, I mean, so were the Bengals the week before, right? So I mean, I think you're definitely missing Milton Williams. I don't think it's a shock to say that of the three guys who are down right now, that Milton Williams is the biggest loss. And again, we had said this, and I think it's just even more apparent right now. But you can get away with that when you're playing the Bengals and the Giants. But coming out of this bye, you have arguably the two best or two toughest rushing teams in the league, because you got Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, two very good, very capable rushers and mobile quarterbacks, and you have James Cook and Derrick Henry, two of the better running backs in the NFL. So this is going to be a huge test for them without Milton Williams. And I'm not going to lie, I don't want to say I'm pessimistic, but I'm a little shaky. I'm a little shaky on what's going to happen.
I'll put it this way: as I was sitting up in the stands and I'm watching them struggle to stop the run, and they did give up 4.1 yards per carry last night, which is it's not terrible, but it's just night and day from what they were when Williams was healthy. And I'm sitting up there and I'm like, if this was a close game, if the Giants didn't spot you a 17-point lead in the first quarter, and this was a close competitive game, the Patriots' inability to stop the run would have been a huge issue.
It totally would have been a huge issue. I mean, and let's not forget too, this team is still struggling to create and force turnovers, right? And one of the ways that you can force turnovers is by putting the pressure on the quarterback and getting after him up the middle, right? It's how you can force some strip sacks, you can force some fumbles, you can force some errant throws. So I think it's a whole trickle down effect where you're gonna have trouble stopping the rushing. Quarterback's gonna have more time in the pocket. It's gonna make it tougher to create turnovers. I think you really do need Milton Williams healthy, and that's why, again, I think this bye is coming at a good time, because you get to miss a guy for 4 weeks, 4 games, but he gets 5 weeks off. So I think that's pretty important.
It may benefit them in the playoffs. Let's just leave it at that. Yeah. Okay, very quickly, you've been very outspoken, Justin, about your opinion about what Ramondre Stevenson's role should be on this team moving forward. I think we can say definitively last night, Mike Vrabel does not share your opinion about what Ramondre Stevenson's role should be on this team. We saw a good amount of him last night.
Yeah, but you know what? Again, it's like I don't see anything out of him to say that we can't get that same production off of another depth piece like a Terrell Jennings or somebody else. It's like I'm just not seeing something that makes the reward worth the risk, in my opinion. And I'm telling you, I don't want to be right about this, but I just have a feeling that when it comes to whether it's one of these big games against Baltimore or Buffalo, or whether it's a big game in the playoffs, he's going to make another big mistake again in a crucial situation. I just feel that way. It's in my gut. So you know what? To get the average production that we're getting out of him, why take that risk?
Yeah, I mean, he averaged 3.3 yards per carry last night on 12 carries. Henderson on 11 averaged 6.1. I think Henderson looked a lot better. I think you could really see a big difference in just the quality of the running game when Henderson was in there versus Stevenson. So I totally agree with you. I think Jennings was hurt last night, so that might have been a factor too. I also will say, if they could just kindly burn the page in the playbook with the Ramondre Stevenson Wildcat, because that's just a complete waste of a play. I hated it.
Yeah.
Hated it before it even happened. Total dud of a play call.
Yeah, it makes no sense. And if anything, if you're going to put anybody back there for the wild card, it should be Henderson. It should be a guy who can turn on the jets and you break one to the outside. Like, yeah, I hate that.
1,000%. Okay, and then last thing before we move to around the league, I mean, let's talk a little bit about the Giants, because I think we talk about Vrabel's bet on culture and how everything the Patriots do says well-coached team, culture built, locker room, right? You could say the complete opposite about the New York Giants. You could say everything they did last night screamed, we are a ship without a captain. I know the interim coach, Kafka, whatever, he is not the man for the job at all. And a couple things last night. I thought, just like you could say Christian Ellis, his not buying into that fight was a reflection of the Pats culture. You could say the same thing about Jackson Dart, that him doing what he did and clearly putting himself in harm's way, it just shows that nobody got to him. There's no culture. There's no leadership. There's no top down. You can't do that, kid. It doesn't exist in that locker room right now. It's a reflection of the lack of leadership with that franchise, the Giants franchise. And then one last thing, and I always think this is a huge symptom of a dysfunctional team, special teams mistakes. And the Giants made a ton of them last night. So I think the Giants are just a lost cause for the rest of this year.
Yeah, I agree. And to go back to your second point about Jackson Dart, what kind of brings everything home to me is, I don't know if, obviously you were at the game, so you didn't get to hear the broadcast, but, listening to Buck and Aikman last night, they said something that stuck with me a little bit, right? They made a comment about how, Jackson Dart is actually, I forget whether they said he told them in an interview or they had heard it from a coach or sources or whatever, but that he's actually getting kind of tired of being told, to avoid the hits and avoid the risky plays and things like that. And I thought that was really telling, because could you picture Vrabel, or even going back to like a Belichick or somebody that was always known for commanding an organization, could you picture them having to tell a young player the same thing over and over and over again, and not only having that player not listen, but say that they're tired of hearing it? Like, that speaks volumes.
100%. I think Jackson Dart is a strong personality, which is one of the things I like about him. What I just said about Drake May, I actually think in terms of his intangibles, I think Jackson Dart shares a lot of those traits.
Yeah, I like
Jackson Dart. He's 9th in the league in QBR. And I think the Giants have something with Jackson Dart. Mm-hmm. But where's the voice? Where's the voice in that locker room that's strong enough to tell him, you can't do this, Jackson. This is selfish. If you get hurt again, we're going to lose games because of that. You need to be out on the field. Yep. The Giants don't have that voice on their coaching staff in their locker room. And, it's just obvious. So, he did something very foolish that could have cost him, another game or two.
He did. And I mean, look, even after, I don't know if you heard his comments in the presser after the game,
I did.
But yeah, he basically made it seem like, well, yeah, that's what's going to happen. I'm going to play football. I'm going to get hit. Right. It's just it's just what I do. And it's how I play.
Unapologetic.
It's unapologetic. Exactly. He's unapologetic. And you know what? Look, like, I do kind of admire his toughness, and I like the fact that he's not out there complaining about physical play and protect the quarterback. And I do like that to an extent, but it also just, again, shows that there's not a respected presence in that locker room that's kind of leading him down the right path. And when we say right path, we mean one that's going to keep him on the field playing, not only from season to season, but for a long time.
That, Justin, and the first round draft pick, who many thought was the best player in the draft coming out this year, got suspended for the first quarter.
Yeah.
Right. He didn't even get on the field.
He's done nothing this year. What an utter disappointment.
Yeah.
I mean, you
totally.
go back to us.
He looks small. Doesn't he look small to you?
He looks small. He looks slow. You go back.
They toasted him on that one run.
He did absolutely toasted him. I mean, you go back to us debating who we wanted the Patriots to get at 4th. And I remember at the time we thought like Abdul Carter was going to come out and be like the next Micah Parsons, but thank God he didn't fall to us, because I'll take Campbell over that guy 10 out of 10 times now, especially seeing what we've seen out of him in his rookie year.
1,000%. I mean, I don't short of the fact that May outran him on that one scramble. Like, I don't think I can remember one time where I noticed Abdul Carter making a play in this game.
No. Yeah, no. And that's not just this game. He's done virtually nothing all season.
100%. All right, let's move to around the league. You ready to expand our horizons beyond Foxborough?
Let's do it.
Can we start? I'm not going to play the music, but the Bill Belichick minute. Can I just say that the way this whole Lane Kiffin thing and what it really brings to the forefront is that, to me, there's a chance Bill Belichick gets fired like soon. Like, if you're UNC and you're going to get rid of Bill Belichick, you do it like now, because now is the transfer portal. It's the same reason Lane Kiffin had to leave now, because the transfer portal is now. So I feel like if they're going to move on from Bill Belichick, it's going to be like this week or next week.
Yeah, it'll be soon. I think he's going to get another year there. I do. And the only reason I say that is just because it seemed like towards the end of the year, at least the back half of the college football season, a lot of those antics and negative attention, negative publicity kind of died down a little bit. I felt like a lot of that was coming at the beginning in preseason. And UNC was noticeably a better team with a couple of decent wins in the second half of the year. So I think he probably earned himself a second year. But you're right. If it's going to happen, it is going to happen relatively soon.
Yeah. You haven't heard Jordan Hudson's name very much the last month or so.
Right. And I wonder if part of that is Bill.
It's a strategy.
Yeah.
It's strategic.
Yes. Because look, I'm sure Bill understands, at a certain point, he's like, look, for whatever reasons you're in this, Jordan, those reasons are slowly going to be dwindling if I don't have a career and I'm not respected in the football world. You know what I mean?
1,000%.
So
it affected, the Jordan Hudson thing affected what happened at UNC. It was a negative impact, and it could still be moving forward. So you got to get that under control. It looks like they did. I don't know if UNC will want to sign up for another year of this. I honestly, I can't see why they would, but maybe they'll feel some misplaced sense of obligation. Maybe they feel like he's building something. To me, if it was an obvious mistake, maybe you just move on, but we'll see what they do. But I'm just saying, if it's going to happen, it could be soon.
Yeah, totally could be soon.
All right. Next one around the league. Let's start with this. I got to take some medicine, and I'm going to tell you on who. Because all season long, Justin, I've been saying that the Philadelphia Eagles will figure it out. The Philadelphia Eagles will figure it out. And fresh in my mind was the 2024 season last year. This is an Eagles team right now, Justin, that has undergone an existential crisis 3 seasons in a row. And as much as we all want to remember last year's crisis when they figured it out, which, by the way, that was easy to do, because they had the best running back in the league, who was having a historic year. And they don't have him. He's not the same player anymore. Let's not forget 2023 when they didn't figure it out. And what I'm going to take medicine on today is the fact that right now it's obvious to me that I was wrong, that this Eagles team is more 2023 Eagles than 2024 Eagles, that there are deep-rooted fundamental problems in that locker room. There's division in that locker room. And the Philadelphia Eagles of this year are really on a path to nowhere, because they are an absolute mess, and this is going to be another 2023 for them. Yeah,
I think when it comes to the Eagles, I don't think their culture problems, their issues, whether it was in Sirianni, the locker room, the coach and the quarterback and the receivers, I think all those issues that existed, they've been there the entire time. It's just that in 2024, the talent was playing at such a high level that there's so much talent in that locker room, and they were playing at such a high level that they overcame those issues, right? But when the performance takes a step back in the talent itself is taking a step back, those issues are still there, and it's just not enough to overcome them at this point. I think you clearly have dysfunction. I think the head coach, I think there's something to be still. Yeah, I think there's a lot left to be desired between the head coach and the relationship he has with those players. I don't think Jalen Hurts is as popular in that locker room as maybe he should be for a franchise quarterback, a Super Bowl winning quarterback. I think some of the players in that locker room have some ego issues in just a little bit of an attitude problem. And not for nothing, but when you talk about production, I'm sorry, to me it's a little weird. Saquon's drop off, isn't it? Like unless the guy is just hurt and we don't know about it, how do you go from having one of the best seasons ever at running back to virtually being just another, a middle of the pack non game changer?
See, I don't think there's anything weird about it. I think we've seen this many, many times in recent NFL history, which is when a running back hits that wall, it's usually after 30, but not always. These guys have precipitous drop-offs, and that's what's happened to Saquon Barkley. Let's not forget, Justin, that in 2023, Nick Sirianni almost lost his job. Yeah. That we were talking about him, Belichick going there and replacing him. They stuck with him. They hit lottery on Barkley. He had one more year left in him. I don't think Barkley is going to come back to save that Eagles team or Nick Sirianni's job again, because he's not the same player. I don't think there's anything unusual, but I just think Barkley hit the cliff and that's it.
I guess, but I don't know. I just feel like, and I guess that's not always the case, but I feel like that drop off to go from where he was to where he's at, I guess I'm just used to seeing that a little bit more gradually. I mean, he legit fell straight off the cliff between the end of last year, straight off the cliff this year. You know what I mean? It was not a gradual, graceful decline at all. So, again, when he takes the step back that he did, they lost some of the pieces on defense, some of their veteran leadership. Don't forget that too. You talk about some of the guys that they lost on the defensive side of the ball. Those aren't just good playmakers. Those are culture guys, right? You lose, Darius Slay, you lose, Ingram, who I think he actually might be back now, but you lose a couple of guys that were just locker room guys, that longtime Eagles. I think that makes a difference. So yeah, I don't know. I just think this team, they're not playing at a level right now that they can overcome the problems they're having.
Yeah, 1,000%. And it's just, look, yes, it's weird how fast he's fallen. He's only 28, by the way, which it is a little early for the cliff, but I saw it happen. I've seen it happen with LaDainian Tomlinson. I saw it happen with Ezekiel Elliott. I saw it happen with Adrian Peterson. These guys, they just, the running back position just has a shelf life. You can go back to the 90s, Terrell Davis. These guys just fall off a cliff and they never recover. And that's what's happened with Saquon. But to your point, when you have the best players, it does a lot to cure culture. It does a lot to make the culture better. It heals a lot of wounds. The Eagles don't have that anymore. And all those old divisions from 2023 are back at the forefront now. And I don't know how you fix it. And I just think AJ Brown had his best game of the year on Friday, and the Eagles still lost the game.
Right.
They changed the offense. They still lost the game because it doesn't matter. There were deeper problems in Philadelphia.
100%.
All right, let's talk a little bit about, I want to give you this take, and I think you might agree with this. I'm looking right now at a Steelers team that is just the epitome of mediocrity, which, by the way, we can both take a victory lap on, because we both said it wouldn't be a disaster, but it wouldn't be great. And that's exactly what it's been with Aaron Rodgers.
Yep.
Is it crazy, Justin, for me to think that the door is open for the Cincinnati Bengals to win that AFC North? A mediocre Pittsburgh team, a Baltimore team that's struggling. They play each other twice. The Bengals have a tough game this week against the Bills in Buffalo. If they somehow win that game, they follow it up with the Ravens at home, a team they just beat on the road 2 weeks ago. And then they have 3 softballs, Arizona, I think Cleveland, and maybe the Raiders to finish the year. 3 easy wins. Okay, I'll look it up in a second, but 3 easy wins. Is it crazy to think the Bengals could be still in it for that AFC North?
It's not crazy. I mean, I actually think it's more likely that they win the AFC North than it is that they sneak in with a wild card spot. Right. And I don't know if that's statistically the case, but that's my feeling at this point, right? Because I feel like the wild card spot is just so jammed up at this point between, the
100%.
So I think that's their path to the playoffs is winning the AFC North. I don't think it's crazy because, if they can go out and beat Buffalo and beat the Ravens, I think that puts them back, at 6 and 7? And
6 and 7. And then they finish with Dolphins, Cardinals, Browns.
Right. And I think if in that scenario, the Ravens would be 7 and 6.
Right.
Right. Something like that. So, maybe even 6 and 7.
Baltimore and Pittsburgh split with each other, right? And then Baltimore has a couple tough games left too. I'm just saying,
it could happen. It definitely could happen.
It could happen. So at DraftKings right now, it's plus 900, which I thought was good value.
That is good. Oh yeah, for them to win the AFC North.
To win the AFC North, for Bengals to win the AFC North.
I do think that's good value. And actually, I would pick the Bengals before I would pick the Steelers to win the AFC North at this point in time.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, the Steelers are really just you talk about a team that's just locked in mediocrity. And I think we said before the season started, why bring in Aaron Rodgers? Just bottom out. It has to be done. The Steelers need a franchise quarterback. It's been 7-8 years now since Roethlisberger retired, and they've just gone from journeyman to reclamation projects.
Yeah.
The Steelers need a franchise quarterback. They're going to go 8-9 or 9-8 this year. They might eke into the playoffs. They are not a contender at all by any means. There's no scenario that I can see that Pittsburgh team making it to the Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers as the quarterback. I think the Steelers would have been better off this year just bottoming out. Just bottom out, get it over with, have your below 500 year, get your quarterback next year, and move forward.
Yeah. I mean, look, they're an aging team. I kind of get what they're saying, in terms of being like, well, with the aging talent on our roster, do we really want to waste a year, or do we want to try to squeeze every last drop that we can out of it? But it's clearly, landing them right where we thought it would. And that's the fact that they are destined for mediocrity. They're probably not going to win the division. It's a coin flip for them to make the playoffs. And they're just running into the struggles that I think we expected. The struggles that mediocre teams face. That's exactly what's happening to them.
1,000%. Okay. Change it up here. Are the Dallas Cowboys, Justin, right now, the hottest team in the NFL?
I mean, it's tough to say they're not.
Besides the Patriots, I guess, right?
Yeah. But obviously besides the Patriots. I mean, that defense in Dallas, they're not great, but they're not bad anymore. They're definitely not bad. That offense is good. That offense is so good that you can get away with an average defense. So I like what they're doing in Dallas. I think they're tough. I think they're going to find their way into the playoffs. And I think they're going to be a very dangerous wild card team, especially because it's one of the things that, again, I feel like you have to take into consideration is expectations and pressure. And for years, Dallas has been playing with some of the highest expectations and pressure out of any franchise. And this year, especially after the Micah Parsons trade, those expectations and that pressure plummeted to the ground, right? So they're kind of free, especially they got a new first-year coach. They're free rolling this season. They don't have any expectations or pressure. And they're actually kind of putting it together in finding ways to go out there and be competitive and be tough.
Yeah, beyond the playoffs, I'll even go a step further. I don't think the NFC East is completely out of play for them at all. I mean, they're a game back on the Cowboys in the loss column. I mean, I really could see a scenario where the Eagles fall apart and the Cowboys stay hot and they steal that NFC East division.
Wouldn't that be wild if the Cowboys won the NFC East? I mean, oh my God.
I'm telling you, for like the first time in 30 years, I feel like the Cowboys actually did things sensibly. I really feel like for the first time in a long time, they built the team right and they showed some like vision, some common sense. I think for the first time in a long time, I like what the Dallas Cowboys are doing with that team.
No, I do like what they're doing with that team. They're getting hot at the right time of year, right? Like, you know, you look at some teams in the past that have made runs in the playoffs, made runs at a Super Bowl. Half the battle is getting hot at the right time of year. And the Dallas Cowboys are starting to peak at the perfect time. They're starting to figure it all out at the right time. And I mean, look, that win against Kansas City, that's a big time win on Thanksgiving against the Chiefs. Both teams are virtually in a must-win situation to keep the rest of their postseason hopes alive. And they came out and they did what they had to do. I like what I'm seeing out of the Dallas Cowboys right now.
Right now, if the season ended today, the Chicago Bears, Justin, are the number one seed in the NFC. How long are the Chicago Bears going to hold on to that number one seed?
You know, I feel I don't even really know how to answer this because I, for one, never thought they would get to this point. So it's like I'm waiting for the tower to come crashing down. Like I don't even understand how they got here, to be completely honest. I know they got a tough matchup this week on the road in Green Bay, and I have a feeling that this is where it comes to an end.
Yep. Agree 1,000%. And how long are they going to hold on to the number one seed? Let me answer that for you. Not long.
Yeah.
Because on Sunday, they're going to lose it.
Yeah.
When they lose to the Green Bay Packers. And 4 of their last 5 games are games that I would say I have a hard time seeing the Bears win. That they end with the Packers, the Browns, the Packers, the 49ers, and the Lions. Yeah. That's a tough schedule. So I think the Bears, all this talk of the Patriots being fool's gold, the Bears are fool's gold. Now they'll probably make the playoffs in the NFC, but I just don't, there's no way they're going to hold on to that division. And I still think they're the 3rd best team in the NFC North.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. I think they're riding a little bit of luck, a little bit of a soft schedule, the last couple of weeks. And again, I think they just took advantage of the fact that they played the Eagles as the Eagles are on the decline. I think that game was more about the Eagles and less about the Bears, to be completely honest.
There's no question about that. There's absolutely no question about. I mean, credit to the Bears. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say the Patriots are beating the teams they're supposed to beat, and then trash the Bears for doing the same. So credit to them for what they've done. But you look at that schedule coming up the next 5 weeks for them, and I'm sorry, like I just don't think it holds up, and I still don't believe in the quarterback. I really don't. And look at what Drake May is doing with what's around him. That Bears team, they might have the best offensive line in football. They run the ball as good as any team in the NFL, the Bears. Yeah. So, that is a well-built team in many ways, but I still think when it comes down to it, and they look to rely on Caleb Williams to get them through some of these tough games, I don't think he'll do it. I really do. I think he falls apart, and I think their team slips back.
I do too. Yeah, 100%.
All right. Anything else you want to talk about, man, before we wrap it up?
Well, I think real quickly we got to talk about the Panthers.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Look, the Panthers are one of those teams where, I expected them to just be awful this year. They're clearly anything but awful. How good they are, I'm not really sure. But look, they're above 500. They're contending for that division. They just went out and beat what many people thought was the best team in football this past week. And they're mixing it up to be in the playoffs. I think the Panthers, Dave Canales, Bryce Young, I think you got to give them their credit where it's due right now. People don't really talk about them, but they're certainly taking care of business right now and outperforming expectations.
Bryce Young has I think 11 comeback wins already in his career, which is one of the most of any quarterback in NFL history in their third season. So, I mean, look, I like Bryce Young, and I don't know. I don't think he has a very high ceiling just because of his size and the limits of his arm, but that doesn't mean he couldn't be a good quarterback. And I think that he has saved his career with the way he's played last year and at the second half of last year and this year. I mean, he's a good quarterback right now. That's just the bottom line.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, the Panthers are playing well. So it's, you know, I mean, they're all that said, they're the 10th seed in the NFC if the season ended today.
Right.
Which is crazy.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Anyone else, my man?
No, I think
Denver.
that's
We didn't
it.
even mention Denver.
Yeah.
Huge win on Sunday night. Commanders couldn't help the Pats out there.
Yeah, I know. Close, came very close. You know, Denver, I've been high on Denver since the beginning of the year. I think they're a good team. I respect that team, but just something about it, I'm not super scared of them. I don't know what it is. I know they're good.
I can tell you what it is. It's the quarterback. You don't respect the quarterback. And and I'm not saying I agree with that. I think it's time to respect Bo Nix.
Yeah.
But I think that I don't think people do not fear Bo Nix in the AFC.
No.
Maybe they should, but they don't.
No, I fear that defense. I fear that coach. I fear those weapons. I do not fear that quarterback.
See, I think Nix is playing great. I think Nix gets a raw deal. I think that people are down on him for some reason. And I think he's been short of Drake May and Matt Stafford and maybe one or two other names. I think Bo Nix has been as good as anyone in this league this year.
Interesting. I wouldn't call him personally. I don't know if I'd call him great, but I do think he's played well. I don't think he's played bad. I'm not saying he's played poorly by any means, but there's just something about that team that I respect, but I don't fear if the Patriots were to play them.
You think Bo Nix is a top 10 quarterback? Maybe somewhere he's close.
I think he's probably hovering in like the 9 to 12 range. Yeah, all right. I'd give him that. I'd give him that. Fringe top 10 quarterback.
You want to do this quick?
Yeah,
okay,
let's
you take May
it,
over him. May over him, right?
Take May over him, yeah.
Allen
over him.
And then you're not taking Tua or whoever the Jets have, so forget about that. Lamar Jackson, that's 3.
Yep.
I'm taking him over Aaron Rodgers.
Okay.
You're taking Burrow over him. The Browns, forget about it. I'm taking him over Trevor. I'm taking him over Daniel Jones. I think I'm taking him over CJ Stroud and definitely Cam Ward. So I got him 4th in the AFC.
Interesting.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I missed Mahomes and Herbert, the whole division.
Yeah, I'll take Mahomes. Okay. So
Mahomes and Herbert.
Take Mahomes and Herbert. So
I don't know if I would necessarily take Herbert over him, to be honest with you.
Well, that's a very close one. I think that's TBD. I think Herbert has a little bit more talent. I like Nix as a winner a little bit more than.
Well, that's just
Herbert.
it. We've sat here for 3 years and we've called Justin Herbert a talented loser.
Yeah.
And then all you see is Nix is a winner. And then we're not going to take Nix over Herbert. I mean, I think that, look, if we value guys that win and have intangibles, then you got to take Nix over Justin Herbert.
So, okay, look, then that's 5 out of the AFC, right? And then I'll take Baker over him. I'll take Prescott over him. I'll take Stafford over him. So right there, that lands
Sam Darnold.
That's
kind of a toss up.
You know what? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no on Sam Darnold.
Jalen Hurts.
I'll take Jalen Hurts over.
You got to take Jalen Hurts. You got to take Jalen Hurts. Bowl.
So right there, that puts Bo Nix at 10, and we have a couple.
Jordan Love. Jared Goff, Jordan Love.
I'll take Jared Goff over him. So there you go.
Right. So you're putting him in that like 11, 12.
Yeah.
Like when you get into that 10 to 12 kind of space, that's where you could have some debates, Jordan Love, Jared Goff, Sam Darnold. Yeah. He kind of falls in that area.
Yeah. Yeah. Which isn't, again, I don't think he's been bad. I'm just not deathly afraid of the guy, Yeah.
Yeah. Fair. Yeah. I think Patriots fans are undervaluing Bo Nix. I think fans across the league are undervaluing Bo Nix.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, look, he's what is part of a very good organization right now. They got one of the best defenses in football. They got a good O-line. They got good weapons, and they got a good coach. So, as long as Bo Nix doesn't have to be a top 5 quarterback for him to lead that team to success, is what I personally think.
That is 100% true. And I honestly, I still see the idea of going out to Denver against that defense with that coach, and I think a good young quarterback in Bo Nix. I mean, that to me sounds scary as a Patriots fan still. I do not want the Patriots to go to Denver.
I think that's why the number 1 seed becomes so important, because, I fear that team coming to New England a lot less than I worry about going out there.
I agree with that. I feel like if that game's in Gillette, I think the Patriots have the upper hand. If that game's in Denver, then I think it goes the other way.
Yeah, fair. That's fair.
All right, man. Bye week. Any plans?
No, I get to, it's almost, as much as I miss the Patriots, it's actually kind of nice because I get to just be a football fan. I just get to root for watch the rest of the games, root for some good football across the league. Don't have to worry about it.
Kind of a dog crap 4:00 slate, actually, this Sunday though.
I haven't checked out the 4 o'clock.
It's not good. Like the 1 o'clock is solid, but the 4 o'clock, let me just pull it up, is total garbage. I think there's only 3 4 o'clock games and they're all week. It's Bears Packers. That's a good game. But then Broncos Raiders, which we'll have a rooting interest in, right? If you're going to be rooting for the Raiders, and then Rams Cardinals. I've had about enough of watching Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah,
frankly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
and then but the 1 o'clocks are good. The national games are all good. The Thursday night game is great. Cowboys Lions. So it should be a good week.
Yeah.
And we're gonna want to wish everyone a great week. Thank you all for all those that listen to this episode of Dr. Football Ultimate Patriots podcast. Have a great week. Enjoy the bye week. Go do something Christmassy. Go do something fun. Go do something non-football-y. What I like to do on these weeks, I'll tell you, I like to do something non-football-y, but then make sure I'm back in front of the TV from 3 to 4:30. Because that's like the high yield time to watch.
That's a good compromise, right?
I think so. Yeah, 100%. So whatever you do, enjoy it. We'll catch you next week with another episode of Dr. Football Ultimate Patriots podcast. Have a great week, everyone. Be healthy, be well, and be safe.